Bowl 27 on NFL Game Day. The return of the Dallas Cowboys, America's team, for the record 6th trip to the big one. But this time, it's not Tom Landry standing stoic on the sidelines, it's Jimmy Johnson. It's not Tony Dorsett, it's Emmitt Smith lugging the rock. It's not Drew Pearson, it's Michael Irvin going deep. It's not too tall, Randy and Harvey. It's a new-look defense so good that its coordinator is already coach of the Bears. And it's not the artful Roger, it's Troy Aikman at the helm.
I don't want to lose this one. I know how you get labeled when you lose the Super Bowl, and I don't want any part of that.
The opponent, the Buffalo Bills, have walked this way before, but they've walked out with heads bowed. Jim Kelly is back in command, and talk of a quarterback controversy is on the back shelf. Bruce Smith is back with a vengeance, and Thurman Thomas is looking to forge new memories.
I think I've grown up enough to where I can say something to keep everybody smiling and not step on too many toes.
The spotlight is on the historic Rose Bowl in picturesque Pasadena. Super Bowl Sunday is here.
I'm going to have fun with this. I'm going to enjoy myself doing it.
It's time to kick it all off next on NFL Game Day. You're looking at the Rose Bowl, the site of Super Bowl 27, site of its 5th Super Bowl. Who will join Oakland, Pittsburgh, Washington, and the Giants as winners on a Rose Bowl field that was drenched with an evening downpour? This was the scene at the Rose Bowl this morning. Shortly after 7 o'clock Pacific time, a helicopter used to dry off the field. Well, they did put the tarp out immediately as soon as it rained late yesterday afternoon and early in the evening. Game time forecast shortly after 3 o'clock here in the West. 63 degrees, a 40% chance of rain. Winds from the northwest from 7 to 14 miles an hour. 6 hours until kickoff. We convene here at the Century Plaza Hotel to usher in Super Bowl Sunday on NFL Game Day. Hello once again, everybody. I'm Chris Berman, and welcome to the Hotel California. Little continental breakfast room service style here this a.m. here in Los Angeles to help us deliver the goods, and we have good help, we think. Our usual staff, Tom Jackson, it's tough to get good help. Joe Theismann and Chris Mortensen, Andrea Kramer, Dan Patrick will join us shortly from the Rose Bowl, and we got all sorts of stuff to talk about in this 90-minute edition of Game Day. As we get set for the Dallas Cowboys against the Buffalo Bills, we are getting set for the exuberance of youth against the dogged determination of a veteran team that's been denied before. The renewal of a legendary power in the NFC against the reigning power in the AFC. The continuation of one conference's dominance against the possible breakthrough for the other one. Guys, I mean, we have all of this working today, and oh yes, they're going to play a ball game. Tommy, 6 hours until kickoff. Where are the teams at right now?
Well, I think for the Buffalo Bills, they got to concentrate on playing a good game. The confident, cocky Bills that I've known now for 3 years have to forget about the last 2 Super Bowls, execute for 3 hours against the Cowboys.
Tommy, you'd expect the Buffalo Bills to be ready because they've been here before. You'd expect the Dallas Cowboys to be a bit overwhelmed. But I'll guarantee you, Jimmy Johnson will not allow his football team to be overwhelmed. Both of them will come out with guns a-blazing.
Well, Joe, everybody's impressed with the road the Buffalo Bills have taken to Super Bowl 27. They had to come back against the Oilers. They had the road wins at Pittsburgh and Miami. But you look at the Dallas Cowboys. They crushed a hot Philadelphia team 34-10. Then they go on the road. The NFC favorite San Francisco 49ers, they win 30-20. Chris, that's a big road to travel.
Yes, they've traveled very impressively along that road. And speaking of the road, let's Mort go up the road to the Rose Bowl to get an early flavor for Super Bowl 27. We did not find, we must admit today, we had our staff out, but we did not find the little old lady from Pasadena, nor did we find Jan and Dean. But we did find Dan and Gene. Well, maybe not Gene, but we found Dan, as in Dan Patrick. And let's bring Dan in now. Can you feel the aura of the Bills and Cowboys standing in the stadium this morning?
Is that what that is, Chris? I thought it was these guys taking the tarp off behind me. But if you say it's the aura, then I'll believe you.
That's
this is the fifth time the Super Bowl has been held here at Pasadena. The last time, Super Bowl 21, that's when the Broncos lost to the Giants 39-20. And one of the 101,000 fans on hand that day, none other than Emmitt Smith. He was still in high school, and he vowed to his friends that day. He said, I'm going to be in a Super Bowl one day. He, of course, will make good on his promise later on this afternoon. And I think that's what struck me about Emmett this week. He was very relaxed with the media because he expected to be here.
Troy and I were kind of laughing about it yesterday. You know, everybody had built the thing up to where, oh me, there's going to be so many distractions, and the 3,000 press credentials, and they're going to be doing this and that. And I said, really, it's easier than what we go through at Valley Ranch a lot of times.
The media, it hasn't really been a problem. You hear so much about it, so much hype about it. The media going to be crazy. 3,000 press going to be there. Da 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 da. All this stuff, and you get here and like, this is it.
As for the Bills, Marv Levy, their head coach, as soon as he got here in Los Angeles, laid down the gauntlet. He said, if anybody's going to say anything, it's going to be me. If anybody's going to take the heat, it's going to be me. Because unlike the two previous Super Bowls, when some of his players spoke out and couldn't back it up, he wanted to make sure this was a very dull week. He said, make this an attraction, not a distraction.
I think I'm able, and I think our players are able, to enjoy the week more than we have in the past. To enjoy it, to have some give and take with the media, because you're talking, we realize the millions of people who are interested in the game at the same time.
You spell Bills with two L's. They don't want to add a third L later on this afternoon. But one thing to keep in mind, history's not on their side. The two teams that lost 4 Super Bowls, the Broncos and Vikings, each lost one of their games right here at the Rose Bowl. Chris, back to you.
Yeah, but the Bills don't read history. Their coach does, certainly, Marv Levy, but he keeps those history books away from them, that's for sure. We'll check back with Dan Patrick a little bit later on at the Rose Bowl in this program. Sometimes a play or an incident can become the symbol of an entire Super Bowl. If that's the case, then Thurman Thomas's misplacing of his helmet for the first 2 plays last year in Super Bowl 26 became the image of a Bills team that became unraveled for the 2nd straight year in the big one. So this past week, rather than dodge the issue, Thermal had some fun with it.
I like to pass out a little item, a very popular item from Super Bowl 26 that I want you guys to keep until after the game, from now until after the game. And if you lose this, I'm telling you, it's going to cause you a lot of problems, okay?
So Thermal played Santa Claus, gave out, 400 or 500 of these little Bills helmets and say, always carry them around with you. So, Tommy, I mean, as I look at it, I think Thurman this year wants to be #1. I mean, if I may point out one thing for a moment, I think his change of attitude this year was the biggest change I saw in any of the Bills, a team that we've gotten to know pretty well.
Well, Chris, I think you certainly have to admire the way he handled this week following the last 2 years. Thurman Thomas is one of the premier running backs in the NFL and headed to Canton, Ohio, barring a 3rd straight Super Bowl loss, something that he and the Buffalo Bills cannot afford. For Thurman Thomas, these are the ghosts of Super Bowls past. Loss number 1, 135 yards rushing, but criticism over the claim that he should have been MVP despite the Giants' win. Loss number 2, only 13 yards rushing, his lowest total of the season, and missing the first 2 plays of the game because he couldn't find his helmet.
I know when we go out there on the football field and I do start a game, probably one of the first quotes in the newspaper the next day is that Buffalo Bills running back Thurman Thomas didn't miss the first 2 plays of the game because he found his helmet this time.
Thomas's reference to the media perception of this game is revealing. It was he who caused the media uproar at last year's Super Bowl, first skipping a press event mandatory for all players, then the next day, his explanation.
Scheduled to go on at 8:30, watched it at 8:45, got upset and left. That was it.
And subsequent complaints of no respect were not well received.
I just have to learn to deal with it better. I think over the course of last year's Super Bowl incident, with missing the press conference, but the helmet issue, I've learned to live a little bit better with me answering questions about those things. And I think it comes along with speaking with people like Marv Levy, Bruce Smith, Jim Kelly, who's been through a lot of controversy like that, and those guys have really helped me. I did make the comment,
but Thurman Thomas has used the media for his purposes too. In 1989, his remarks about Jim Kelly's remarks helped coin the phrase bickering Bills. He is one of those athletes with the label of outspoken.
Sometimes Marv will come into a meeting and talk about some things that the media might ask you different questions about it. And to me, when he says that, it seems like everybody in the room, all the players are looking at me because I'm the one that might say something crazy.
I think he takes that upon himself and says, that's right, look at me. You know, I'm Thurman, I'm going to say whatever I want to.
This attitude has led to the perception that Thurman Thomas is arrogant, a perception he says that's initiated by the media.
They're trying to say that I'm trying to be cocky about myself, I don't have a good attitude, I'm selfish and things like that. And I think that's where it all starts, you know. I mean, you ask me a stupid question, I'm going to give you a stupid answer.
He is a Hall of Fame caliber back, the league MVP last year. This season setting an NFL record with his 4th straight season of leading the league in combined yards from scrimmage. But unless he has a big game today, Thurman Thomas will always be haunted by the public's perceived images of Super Bowls past.
If people are going to judge me by, a lot of the sports writers are going to judge me if you remember Thurman Thomas, how would you remember him? And if they say something about the helmet issue, then, you know, it's like my career was a whole downfall.
In today's game, Thurman Thomas must be established early and often. When he begins to run the ball, catch the ball out of the backfield, it opens up everything else in the Buffalo offense, and it takes the pressure more off Jim Kelly.
Still, maybe the best thing that happened to the Bills was the injury to Thurman Thomas late in the season. It got Kenneth Davis on the field. He gives them an extra dimension, a little more quickness, a little more power. But it also forces the Cowboys to prepare not just for Thurman Thomas, but for Kenneth Davis, Joe.
Mort. I want to throw some numbers at you. Okay, 2 years ago in the Super Bowl, in 19 minutes of play, Thurman Thomas accounted for 190 yards of offense. This game may be a team game, but when Thurman Thomas and Emmitt Smith are on the football field, I'll guarantee you at the end of it, Thurman does not want to have Emmitt get the better of him.
10 yards a minute is pretty good. Well, you mentioned the 2 best statistical runners in the NFL, Emmitt Smith, Thurman Thomas. Are they the same style? There are some differences there, Joe?
Well, Chris, there really are just little subtle differences. Obviously, both are very productive. Both are not very tall of stature, but they both have distinctive different running styles. Here you see Emmitt break outside, and he just bowls over people. Now, Thurman, on the other hand, what he likes to do is he shows that elusiveness and that quickness. 2 different styles of running, both fairly fast, but the big difference is one will run with you, hanging on to him. The other one will make you miss and shake and run away. There's their production as far as yards go. Wow. 2,335, 2,381. 36% of an offense, 34% of an offense. I really don't think there's much more to say about how important they are to the offense.
I was just going to say, need we say more? Although there are some differences in the styles, I know Bruce Smith told me, hey, you know, we practice against Thurman every day, so maybe that'll get us ready for Emmitt a little bit. Although Shane Conlon had another way to look at it. He said, well, I know I can't cover Thurman. I don't think I'm going to be able to cover Emmitt Smith today, so I don't think he'll be back in the pass coverage schemes. We have plenty to come on this 90-minute edition of Super Bowl Game Day. When we return, we'll have more on Emmitt Smith, the NFL's leading rusher for the 2nd straight season, wreaking havoc on opponents with his good buddy, Michael Irvin. Some of the Bills' lesser-known defenders, like Nate Odoms, will be in the spotlight. So will JJ Jimmy Johnson, a man whose mind is always on game plan.
I don't like a lackadaisical approach. I don't like small talk. I don't like a waste of time. I don't like BS. I can't stand it if somebody comes up and says, well, I heard a great joke. I normally will walk away. I don't care anything about hearing jokes. I want to know real stories.
Mountain man survival skills. The basics. A true mountain man must have a keen sense of direction, a certain physical dexterity, and a talent for surviving the most unforgiving climates. Of course, nothing is more key to a mountain man's survival than plenty of smooth bush beer and easy drinking bush light. So, head for the mountains and learn how the mountain man survives even the most grueling conditions.
Even if you can afford some of life's luxuries, you still need a way to get them home. which is why the Isuzu Trooper comes with a cavernous amount of cargo space. 90.2 cubic feet to be exact.
850, 850, no one bid 850. Masha, sold to the gentleman in the blue blazer.
Plus, it's got a rather large towing capacity. The Isuzu Trooper, practically amazing.
One of my clients called me. He says, John, I really want to buy this stock and this stock. I said, you're crazy. I won't do it for you. It's not in your best interest to do. 80% of your portfolio in biotech stocks? It's absurd. And I'm not scared to tell the client it's the wrong thing. I didn't want to see the exposure for him, and he understood.
Is your money getting this kind of attention? Call Shearson Lehman Brothers.
This Super Bowl edition of NFL Game Day is brought to you by Smooth Busch Beer and easy drinking Busch Light.
Searching for the perfect home? Why not a two-story colonial with maintenance-free exterior in the beautiful town of Lockport? Springfield Meadows, located on Lincoln Avenue, can be yours for the affordable price of $118,900. 3 or 4 bedrooms, 1.5 baths, a country kitchen, family room with fireplace, cathedral ceilings, 2-car garage, and a wood deck await you. Stop by our model home daily from 1 to 4 p.m. or Wednesday from 1 to 7 p.m. Hunt Real Estate and Keyway New Home Construction remind you that affordability is the key. We'll show you the way. So stop in at 7055 Lincoln Avenue, Lockport, or call Judy Relabé or Muriel Abate at 438-9769, or toll-free 1-800-688-1170, 438-9769, or toll-free 1-800-688-1170.
ESPN, top-ranked boxing, Sunday night after the Super Bowl. A 4-star night of top-ranked boxing. Star 1, Michael Carbajal. Star 2, Scotty the Bulldog Olsen. Star 3, heavyweight Tommy Morrison. Star 4, Olympic champion Oscar De La Hoya. All on top-ranked boxing. Super Bowl Sunday on ESPN.
Game day continues. The view from the Bud 1 airship of a dark desert highway, the Pacific Coast Highway. Cool breeze in the air. Warm smell of colitas rising up in the air. Yes, the Hotel California edition continues. We love that song. Mort, what a contrast in coaches today. I mean, you have 64 years young Marv Levy, a man that was a head coach at the University of New Mexico back in the 50s, a guy that coached at Cal. Craig Morton was his quarterback in the early 60s. He's coached the Alouettes in the CFL, the dearly departed Chicago Blints in the USFL, the Chiefs, the Bills. He's been around. Whereas Jimmy Johnson has been around, yes, but he's 15 years younger. It's only his 4th NFL season. Levy's been head coach or assistant for 16 years.
That's right, and if you remember, Chris, Jimmy Johnson compiled a 44-4 record at the University of Miami. Then comes his rookie campaign in the NFL, 1-15. 3 years later, his record is 35-33, which is a phenomenal turnaround that's been done more with action, not just words.
I don't like a lackadaisical approach. I don't like small talk. I don't like a waste of time. I don't like BS. I can't stand it if somebody comes up and says, well, I heard a great joke. I normally will walk away. I don't care anything about hearing jokes. I want to know real stories.
Here, then, are some real stories about Jimmy Johnson, head coach of the Dallas Cowboys.
In school, Jimmy was known as Jimmy Jump Up, because when he got knocked down, he was the fastest one back up on his feet. And he got up on his feet with a positive attitude.
Hey, super job, because you could have gotten down, you know, when they got on top of you, and you could have said, oh, here it goes again. But those days are over with.
The football influences of his life, Johnson has said, include the X and O teachings of Frank Broyles and the organizational skills of Chuck Fairbanks. By his own nature, he is a perfectionist. He likes order about everything.
We've been eating Mexican food every Tuesday night here for the last 4 years. And about 6 months ago, I finally went to the secretary and I said, we got to have Mexican food. We know that, but let's, you know, rather than tacos, let's have enchiladas. And he came out and the Mexican food was there, and he kind of looked at it and kind of cut his eyes around a little bit, and nobody said anything. And he says, oh, Mexican food again, it must be Tuesday.
I am intense, and I like things a certain way, and I'm very uncomfortable if things are not right, and I'm not going to wait to make them right.
A couple of incidents in the final 3 weeks of the season tell a lot about Johnson. First, he had a highly charged emotional reaction on the plane ride home from Washington after the Cowboys blew a fourth-quarter lead to the Redskins.
He wanted to take the entire loss, the entire bad situation, and put it on his back, and it really bothered him.
I didn't enjoy what happened in Washington, and I didn't feel like anybody else should enjoy what happened in Washington, and I didn't want it to happen again. That's the way it is, that's the way it'll always be.
Final week, meaningless game against the Bears, a victory, second-string running back Herman Richards fumbles. Jimmy Johnson cuts him the next day.
I didn't want to go into a playoff system to where one mistake or one player not being totally committed could cost all others a chance for advancement.
Yet there is no star system to Johnson's demands.
I recall one last year when right after the Houston game, when I fumbled in the overtime and so forth, and then we went to New York and I had a rash of fumbles there. He pulled me to the side and said, hey, you need to get your mind here. I don't know where your mind is, but you need to come back here.
He is obviously a very competitive person. He's a very driven person, and there's no question that he cares a great deal about football and winning football games. And that's pretty much all he cares about.
The player was looking at you through his eyes. What would you like him to see in you?
Someone that's going to win day in, day out, year in, year out.
There's a couple other stories about Johnson. Late this week in practice, he asked some friends of the owner, Jerry Jones, to politely leave. He also asked former Dallas Cowboys great Leroy Jordan also to leave practice. Now, he allowed UCLA coach Terry Donahue to stay, and here's why. Donahue's Bruins play at the Rose Bowl. Donahue helped Johnson out with every angle, sun, shadows that they contend with at the Rose Bowl, and that's the type of detail guy he is, Chris.
He knows where the shadow and the sun is at all times. That's pretty scary, Mort.
It is.
Very, very scary. Joe, I mean, both of these coaches, Marv Levy and Jimmy Johnson, certainly have been very successful, but two real different methods, huh?
They really are, Chris. When you take a look at these men, for example, Marv Levy said coming into this week's preparation for the Super Bowl, he was going to put his players in pads. Well, the players said, hey, Marv, we don't want to be in pads. We'd rather go like we went all year. He said, fine. I just can't picture Jimmy Johnson's players coming up to him after he said, we're going to go in pads and saying, excuse me, coach, can we sort of practice without? I just don't see that happening with Jimmy Johnson.
He's got a young team. He figures they don't know much, although even a veteran team probably wouldn't give him any suggestions. Marv has changed over the years. Remember the old wing tee he used to run with Kansas City? I don't see the Bills running that offense anymore, do you? We're only midway through the first quarter of our 90-minute edition of Super Bowl NFL Game Day. When we return, the Cowboys' Ken Norton Jr., his tough relationship with his famous boxing dad. Talk about tough. The city of LA has known that this year, but there's some inspiration to be had out there, as Tommy found out by spending time with a legend.
Well, I would think that Magic Johnson and Michael would be accessible to the young men I deal with, because I would think they would be educated enough to know that that's the eye of the hurricane. If we make a change there, then all the other organizations, all the other programs can do their job properly.
Recently, 1 million cases of Diet Pepsi were sent free to loyal Diet Coke drinkers.
I wonder if some of them are singing a different tune now. It's got a hold on me, right in the soul of me. I'm a changed man. This is the right one, baby. Uh-huh.
It makes you wonder, what would happen if everyone tried Diet Pepsi?
No comment, baby. No doubt about it. Only one taste is the right one. Makes me feel like singing. You got the right one, baby! Uh-huh.
To me, there's nothing better than winning a Super Bowl or a NASCAR race. But to finish strong, you have to start fresh. That's why my car starts with an interstate battery. Interstate batteries are fresh, thanks to the largest dealer network and a lightning-fast restocking system. So insist on an Interstate battery. For factory fresh power, look for this symbol or call 1-800-CRANK-IT. And start fresh with Interstate.
We'll take the face-off, the howitzer, and the deke. Give me that kick save, give me the biscuit. Give me those skaters, not those skaters. Give me the real stuff. Yeah, him. Can you dent the twine? Good. Give me the siren, give me the post, Zamboni. Give me that, and that. Not her. Yeah, him. Take that, take him, take that. Give me the box. If it's in the game, it's in the game. NHL PA and NHL hockey. For Super NES and Sega Genesis. EA Sports. It's in the game.
Not even 9:30 out here yet. 6 hours till kickoff, and they're already converging on the Rose Bowl in Pasadena. There's nothing like the excitement of a Super Bowl Sunday, that's for sure. And we're glad you could be with us on NFL Game Day. Today's game at the Rose Bowl is a homecoming for many of the players. 5 Cowboys and 3 Bills played their college football at UCLA, whose home games are played in the Rose Bowl. It's a double homecoming for Dallas linebacker Ken Norton Jr., who was a Bruin and also hails from just south of here a little bit in Orange County. But as we head back to the Rose Bowl to rejoin our Dan Patrick, I guess it's safe to say that for Norton, Dan, it is not a complete homecoming.
No, it's not, Chris. This is a demanding week for these players, not only in preparation for Super Bowl 27, but also trying to come up with enough tickets for family and friends. Ken Norton Jr., as you mentioned, played his games here at UCLA, right here in the Rose Bowl. He's from the area. He provided the tickets for some of his family, some of his friends. One person he didn't provide a ticket for was his father, the former heavyweight champ of the world, Ken Norton Sr. These two had a relationship that they described as a special bond. It was more like 2 brothers instead of a father and a son, but they had a falling out a year ago. They haven't spoken in a year. And apparently their problem stems from right before Ken Norton Jr. got married. Apparently Ken Norton Sr. didn't agree with his choice of a wife. I asked Ken Norton Sr. earlier this week, after he drove 2 hours to talk to us about this, why he won't be here for the biggest game in his son's career.
I wouldn't invite her to go, so I would not go. The 3 children are coming to the game. But I'm not coming. I'll sit at home and watch. And I wish him the best. I hope he has one of the best games of his life. To miss this game, it does mean a lot to me. I feel it. My children feel it. My wife feels it. But there's some things in life that will be. And this is one of the things that will be.
There's no way he can be this close to you, geographically, and not feel like he's got to settle this thing.
Put it this way. He is this close, right? Do you know Alexander Graham Bell?
Yeah.
What did he do?
He's a pretty famous inventor.
Well, what did he invent?
Telephone.
There you go, buddy. Being that I was in the fight game for a while, I got to the point where I had to be able to blank things out in order to do what I wanted to do. And this is the time where I use the same avenue of approach. I can't take a chance on calling him. I don't want to take a chance on calling him, upsetting him. Well, it's going to affect his game.
You're going to miss your son playing in the Super Bowl. I don't care what you accomplished in boxing. That would probably hit you harder and say, this is what it's all about.
Possibly, but the point is, we'll never find out.
It should be pointed out that Ken Norton Jr. politely declined to talk about this current rift between he and his father. He would talk about their relationship prior to this past year, but he wouldn't discuss what their problem is right now. And keep in mind that he took care of his father when his father was involved in a near-fatal car accident a few years ago. It was Ken Norton Jr. who bathed his father, fed his father. He loves his father. But right now, the Norton story will not have a Hollywood ending. Chris?
All right, Dan, thank you very much. Ken Norton Jr., Tommy, tough times with his dad. In L.A., certainly some tough times for very many. We cannot forget the riots that raced through the city less than 12 months ago. It's ironic that we're talking about Ken Norton Jr. and his father. that a man who was known in South City as Pops, a man who was no stranger to L.A. and to football fans, Jim Brown, that he comes to the forefront now?
Well, we start talking about Jim Brown. I guess I'm going to date myself a little bit here. Growing up in the 50s in Cleveland as a kid, I watched Jim Brown, and he was somewhat of a hero, being the greatest runner in the NFL. Now in the 1990s, he is still working with kids, but there's been a dramatic change of venue. As an athlete, he is considered by many as the greatest running back of all time. As an agent of social change in Los Angeles, Jim Brown is looking for the same success.
With the decline of our country and the inner city problems and the gangsters and ex-convicts and the kids that's coming into that particular world, I identified that as a problem that had to be dealt with differently, not through enforcement, but through investment in these individuals.
We, the jury, in the above entitled action, find the defendant not guilty, not guilty, not guilty, not guilty, not guilty, not guilty, not guilty.
When the LA riots were over, the world looked on stunned, and the Los Angeles community looked to rebuild. 9 months later, as the NFL revels in its annual pageantry, all eyes are again on Los Angeles.
The Super Bowl is almost an embarrassment because out there, there's like death, destruction, poverty, hopelessness, and up here, there's nothing but money. You know, a guy making $2 million, $3 million. There are the big parties, there's a celebration, and it's a contradiction, you know, and I live in both worlds.
In South Central LA, they only live in one of those worlds.
It brings back attraction, it brings back the people, it brings back the publicity, and it brings economics back to the city. However, you know, the way the economic situation is being directed, it really doesn't affect the overall change within, you know, certain communities. I drive around the neighborhoods where some of the places where the riots were, and it's still burned out, empty lots. Where exactly is the rebuilding going to start?
The city of Watts was still trying to recover from the riots that happened over a quarter of a century earlier. After last year's civil unrest, Watts has sunk deeper in despair.
Our high school up here has went down. James Washington from the Cowboys was a student, was a product from this community. With us. But not reinvested back into the community, which leaves the community on this downward fall. And it's been going like this ever since 1965.
Yeah. Michael Jordan, he could fly from here to there. That's what he done. He flew across there. Now how's everybody else gonna get across now? Without him, you know, building a bridge, you know, so that his brothers and sisters, you know, all people can come across.
There's a thing called reinvesting in your own people, being accessible to your own people. Don't point the finger anywhere else until you have finally gotten it off yourself, you see. And it is a shame, it's embarrassing that I can call Jerry Buss and get him before I can get Magic. Why don't you and I get all these African-American players to put up 10% of their salaries and get a fund, a capital fund, that would be geared to young entrepreneurs?
The NFL has looked to help and invest. During Super Bowl week, the league, along with country music star Garth Brooks and the United Way of Los Angeles, promoted a program known as YET, Youth Education Training. The NFL also donated $1 million towards the building of a multifaceted educational and recreational facility in South Central LA.
The NFL is coming in, and the NFL will leave, but they're going to leave the NFL yet behind. They're going to leave this educational enrichment facility behind for this community to take advantage of.
What you have is a combination of things that will at least affect the kids in that particular area.
What do those kids dream? What do those kids want? Do they dream about being in that game being played down in Pasadena?
Every dream anybody else has, they have. It is absolutely no different. It's a piece of the pie.
The young men that you saw in that feature, obviously intelligent. They look for a place to jumpstart their community, and they find it very difficult. As they told me, a lot of money will be made surrounding the Super Bowl. None of it will trickle down to this neighborhood where it is probably needed the most. Another note, James Washington of the Dallas Cowboys has had a business in his old neighborhood for a little over a year, and he's now developing another vehicle to upgrade housing in the area. So he is one of the few players who's coming back and reinvesting in the neighborhood. Jim Brown says they need a lot more of that.
Well, maybe slowly but surely some of the money that is spent in L.A. this week will, I mean, it's hopeful, will trickle back into the neighborhood like you mentioned. I mean, a Super Bowl that ironically was not supposed to be played at Los Angeles. Originally it was supposed to be in Phoenix, but because of the lack of Martin Luther King holiday, it moved to Los Angeles. So maybe some good will happen eventually, although let's hope so, Tom. When we return, we'll go from one legend to a pair of teammates whose on-field performances are becoming legendary, Emmitt Smith and Michael Irvin, and the half of the Buffalo defense that you may not know, but after the Super Bowl is over, some of them may be household names. Stay with us.
Families are big business, so everybody says theirs is a family car. All right, tell me it has 90 cubic feet of passenger space like a Subaru Legacy then. Enough room for 5 so you're close but not touching me close. Tell me it has a quiet, horizontally opposed engine like the Legacy. There's enough noise already with a family. Tell me it offers all-wheel drive and anti-lock brakes like a Legacy. A family car is for my family, not some other family I don't care so much about. Tell me I have the money. I want to know what to drive.
On the next Time Tracks, a brilliant criminal from 2193 is loose in 1993.
Stop the zombie before he makes another shipment.
And only a cop from the future can prevent a nuclear disaster. A race against the clock on Time Tracks. And Kane faces his toughest opponent.
He is smoke. Illusion. The shadow assassin. Man can kill you with his thoughts.
On Kung Fu, the legend continues. Check listings for time and channel in your area.
A basketball fan's ultimate trip. Jets, limos, luxury hotels, and 5 tickets to the championship in New Orleans. Watch for the Fab 5 Fantasy Basketball Weekend Sweepstakes beginning next Monday only on ESPN.
Welcome back to Game Day in the Hotel California, where for the Cowboys and Bills, this could be heaven or this could be hell. Sometimes in the Super Bowls, unknowns come to the forefront, like a Kurt Gobea or, sorry, Joe, Jack Squirek or players like that. You knew that would come up. As we go to the Rose Bowl and join Andrea Kramer, perhaps today will be one of those days for the heretofore lesser-known player.
Well, Chris, one of the keys to today's game could be how Dallas's no-name defense handles Buffalo's no-huddle offense. Dallas uses mass substitutions, rotating in as many as 19 guys, so the scheme, not the individuals, gets the attention. For Buffalo, Bruce Smith is in the spotlight. Despite sore ribs, his relatively good health this year is the difference for the Bills' defense. A defense that has yielded only 1 offensive touchdown in the last 9 playoff quarters. But besides Bruce, there are still lesser lights that deserve to shine.
You could say our whole team has quite a few superstars on it, and it's tough being on a team like that because you're always overlooked.
The queen bee, that's all they ever talk about, but there's so darn many workers that produce the honey, and it's the same thing in this. Everything to me is relative, you know. You're gonna have the Bruce Smiths, you're gonna have the Jim Kellys, and then Thurman Thomases, the Andre Reeds, but you'd be surprised. It's the other workers that make those guys what they are.
Maybe we should call the Bills the Killer Bees. You've got Bruce and Biscuit, alias Cornelius Bennett, then all those worker bees. And who are those guys anyway? Who do you think is an unsung guy on your defense?
Well, I think, for one, Phil Henson.
I think Jeff Wright. Probably myself.
Probably Jeff Wright.
Do I have to pick?
You have to pick one.
Okay, I think Marcus Patton. I'll probably have to give the nod to probably Phil Henson.
Yeah, I've always said if it wasn't for Darryl Talley, Bruce Smith would probably he'd go in the shell, because again, Darryl does an excellent job promoting
promoting Bruce because he's a very non-selfish player, and you know, they just work well together.
I'm still the other guy around here. You know, there's only so much of a limelight for anybody to grab, and you know, certain people are going to get that right away.
Two-time Pro Bowler Talley was snubbed in the selection process this year, hence his frustration. His respected career epitomizes the catch-22 of the other Bill defenders. Others shine because of them, thereby dimming their own limelight. But despite the decreased notoriety, these players reap their own benefits from playing alongside or in front of a Bruce Smith.
He's unpredictable. I think offenses have problems with that. And when they start drawing blockers to him, that helps me out. And in turn, when my pass rush is on, they have to use two people to block me, which helps him out and Phil out.
And a lot of times, they have to game plan around Bruce Smith. So my role may be to, in some way, free up Bruce Smith, because he is a unique individual, and you got to let his talent flow. And I'm willing to do whatever I can to let Bruce get in the spotlight.
Some regard their unheralded status as a plight, others as a blessing. Henry Jones has benefited from the improved pass rush as much as the reflected media spotlight to earn his first Pro Bowl appearance.
As long as the team's winning and, you know, you're doing, everything's going great for the team, then, you know, it doesn't mind being anonymous. I think the team's success will also help bring out some of that anonymity, so I think it goes both ways.
The Bills haven't yielded a 100-yard rusher in 19 games, and they feel if they can control the gaps, they can contain Emmitt Smith. But the key may be how Cornelius Bennett plays on a hamstring that he admits isn't 100%, Chris.
All right, Andrea, thank you. May not be 100%, but he's practiced all week, and he's going to give it the go, certainly. That's the Buffalo defense. One of the hottest topics this week, Mort, was about the Dallas defense, ranked #1 in football, but yet a real substitution-type defense. For example, how are they against the no-huddle? Normally on passing situations, they take out Casillas and Merrill in the two tackles. They bring in Leon Lett and Jimmy Jones, but they may not be able to make those moves and aren't planning to be able to make a lot of moves, as Pettibone and the Redskins did last year. Does this mean Dallas could be in some trouble?
Well, I really don't think so. They're fresh, and I know that Maryland and Casillas are looking forward to playing in more pass rush situations, and that Casillas on Buffalo right guard Glenn Parker is one of the matchups that favors the Cowboys today. So I think Kelly could see some pressure up the middle.
Well, some guys that are good pass rushers but haven't done it really for a while, like Maryland and Casillas. Joe, can Dallas, though, get caught with the wrong alignment sometimes here?
Big problem sometimes, Chris, is communication. Forget about what's happening up front. Take a look at the problems that occur in the secondary. This is against the Atlanta Falcons. You see the one wide receiver right, three wide receivers left. That's the basic formation of the Buffalo Bills. All they do is run them off into the end zone. This is Wade Wilson going back in the pocket, and Drew Hill is going to wind up in the middle of the end zone all by himself. Just a quick glance by Wilson, there he is. To me, it isn't a question whether the guys up front are going to get pressure. It's the guys in the secondary. They're going to be able to find the Bills receivers.
Well, we'll see who gets in what rhythm with the lack of substitution. We'll see if the Cowboys defense or Bills offense has the rhythm advantage. When we return, some Super Bowl oddities, a visit with the two Super Bowl quarterbacks, Jim Kelly and Troy Aikman, and Dallas's dynamic duo on offense, Emmett and Michael, getting it done.
I used to teach him a lot. Last year, he used to catch the ball and take off running all the way down to about the 1 yard line. He said, Michael, hey man, that was a great catch and run, Hoss, but I'm gonna take it in from here.
The solid granite gray of Wall Street. The boundless blue of a Paris morning. The radiant reds of an Australian sunrise. In celebration of a new style of service at home and abroad, we now embrace the colors of the world as the new colors of United Airlines. Come fly the airline that's uniting the world. Come fly the friendly skies.
It's only natural that children look to their parents for answers. So to help you explain why some things that may be fine for adults aren't right for children, Anheuser-Busch offers Family Talk, free advice from professionals to use with your kids while they're still learning to be grown up. And their favorite teacher is you. Let's stop underage drinking before it starts.
Hello, Pizza Hut. Yeah, we've got the Steak Lovers Pizza.
Yes, we are the home of the Steak Lovers Pizza.
Strips of steak and a delicious sauce.
Steak Lovers, yes.
It's got onions and 3 kinds of cheese.
Domino's. No, don't have it. No steak, no lovers, no nothing like that. We're Domino's.
Yes, we have Steak Lovers Pizza.
Yes.
No. Yes, we'll deliver it right away.
If you want a Steak Lovers Pizza, there's only one place to get it.
Yes, we have it.
Yes. No siree Buffsky.
Yes, yes.
Pizza Hut. Sometimes you gotta stop and smell the pizza.
Want to run all your software fast? Then look for the Intel Inside symbol on your next computer. It says you've got a real power source on the inside. Like the upgradable Intel 486 microprocessor. Power it up and run your software at light speed. Intel, the computer inside.
Welcome back to Super Bowl game day. Tommy, Emmitt Smith, Michael Irvin, they're best of friends. They're very good, and they have some fun.
Well, Chris, these two guys make me want to play football again just to hang out in the locker room with them. One is the leading rusher in the NFL, while the other collected more receiving yards than anyone else in the league. They are indeed Dallas's dynamic duo, but it's their competitive spirit between each other that's helped put the boys in the bowl.
I got slobbered right there on the 1 yard line. I jumped up and caught, and that safety caught me there. I got slobbered, man. And Emmett comes running out. You all right? You all right? All right, get off the field now. Let me get this touchdown. You know, okay, get off the field. And I was like, man, you know, thanks. Okay, I'm out here. You know, but yeah, we do it all the time.
I mean, I used to tease him a lot. Last year, he used to catch the ball and take off running all the way down about the 1 yard line. He said, Michael, hey man, that was a great catch and run, Hoss, but I'm gonna take it in from here.
Good,
Tell him what your New Year's resolution was.
Last year, my New Year's resolution was not to get put out on the one anymore. You know what I mean? And I turn around. I don't know how many times I did it this year, like 5 or 6 times again.
Resolution was to have Michael continue to get the ball down on the 1 yard line, and I continue to score the touchdown.
And once we get inside the 5, it's over, Hoss. He's going to score the touchdown. You know, and I tell people now, you know, what people don't understand is what Emmett is. He's like that Michael Jordan. He's probably the best finisher to play the game. You know, we can go out in a game and we'll throw the ball early, We get up 17-3, it's over. You know what I mean? We're going to pump it in. He's finishing the game. That's what I mean when I say finisher of a game. We're pumping it to him, and he's 5 yards here, 7 yards there, 9 yards there. And the whole while, you know, that clock is just tick, 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 tick.
Cowboy fans, welcome to the Michael Irvin Show. I'm Craig James, and with me, as always, the playmaker. And
I've been on Michael's show twice.
And I've thrown tributes to Emmett, NFL rushing champions on
well, that was to help your ratings. You didn't do it out of the goodness of your own heart.
Now, see that? Listen. Now I didn't do it out of the goodness of my heart.
I remember one time, Michael.
Deal with it.
I remember one time Michael was supposed to come by my house and pick me up and take me to the show.
Don't.
With him.
God.
Because I didn't know where I was going. And Michael didn't call. He didn't come by and pick me up. So I know I'm supposed to go on the show tonight. So I called down to the station and find out Michael's there. He's there. So I asked Michael, I said, Michael, what happened, man? How come you didn't come back? Oh, man, I'm busy. I just had to get on down here. I was a little late and da-da-da-da-da.
Oh,
he said,
man.
Won't you come on down now? And, man, I jumped up. I said, okay, I'll be there. I made it there in 10 minutes. I'm doing 100 and something down, 183. And so we're trying to get down here to help Michael. now check this out. Now this is how Michael did.
Don't start.
This is how Michael did.
Now, hold on. No, he knows I have a problem with being on time. Now that's just my nature now. He knows that's my nature.
We were shooting a double trouble poster.
Oh, come on, man.
We were shooting a double trouble poster that one day. And I called Michael and said, Michael, be at my house about 5:30. A limo was going to pick us up. You know what time Michael showed up at my house?
5:31.
7 o'clock. 7 o'clock. 7 o'clock.
My alarm clock. My alarm
He showed up at my house at 7 o'clock.
And I do. You know what I mean?
We wanted to take a shot downtown Dallas with the sun back there. And 7 o'clock, the sun was gone.
Y'all shoot it with the lights. Just
so we had to do everything differently now.
It turned out great. It turned out great.
Now check this out. Now check this out. Now check this out. 7 o'clock.
Tick, 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 tick.
Da 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 da.
It's your house.
The true measure of Michael and Emmett is what they do on third down. You have one guy who averages 4.6 yards per carry and gets you the tough yards. But when you look at Irvin, third of his catches are third down conversion catches, and that means they move the sticks, they keep drives going, Joe.
Tommy, you talk about two guys who you'd love to be around in a locker room. There's a guy you can hardly find anywhere, and that's Jay Novacek till it comes to third down. 68 catches this year. As an offense, they converted almost 42%. Those three guys, who do you want to stop, Mort?
Well, Joe Novacek, Darrell Johnson, Emmitt Smith, look for all of them on the pass today because the Cowboys know they have to keep the Buffalo linebackers busy, especially Shane Conlon, who did not have a great season in pass coverage, Chris.
Yes, but one of the biggest matchups of the day, if the Bills pass rush can get to the Dallas offensive line, is the Dallas offensive line unsung? Are they very good? Or are they average? Smith against 2-A, if they get to Aikman, won't matter where these guys are in the pattern. That will determine a lot in today's ball game. When we return to our 90-minute Super Bowl edition of NFL Game Day, a poignant look at life after the big show. Life after football, which for many can be a traumatic experience.
It scares the hell out of me. Scared, I think, a little bit. Scared not so much of what I'm going to do, but scared of how I'm going to deal with not being around this.
Searching for the perfect home? Why not a two-story colonial with maintenance-free exterior in the beautiful town of Lockport? Springfield Meadows, located on Lincoln Avenue, can be yours for the affordable price of $118,900. 3 or 4 bedrooms, 1.5 baths, a country kitchen, family room with fireplace, cathedral ceilings, 2-car garage, and a wood deck await you. Stop by our model home daily from 1 to 4 p.m. or Wednesday from 1 to 7 p.m. Hunt Real Estate and Keyway New Home Construction remind you that affordability is the key. We'll show you the way. So stop in at 7055 Lincoln Avenue, Lockport, or call Judy Relabé or Muriel Abate at 438-9769, or toll-free 1-800-688-1170, 438-9769, or toll-free 1-800-688-1170.
Ancient Hawaiian god of power, of victory, of war, whose spirit dominates a fierce clash in Hawaii among the NFL's mightiest warriors. The fastest, the strongest, and the toughest. A rendezvous with cool. The NFL Pro Bowl, Sunday night, February 7th, live on ESPN.
A look down on that venue. That'll be Super Bowl 27 from our friends at the Bud One Airship. Getting ready for the Bills and the Cowboys at the Rose Bowl. We continue to get ready here on Super Bowl Game Day. Greg Garber joins me now. And Greg, I mean, we certainly all know that the Super Bowl is a pinnacle of any football player's career. A chance to achieve some team and some individual glory that really they've been dedicating their whole lives to. But games and moments like this are very high with a very dangerous low.
Yeah, the Super Bowl is a game that every player aspires to, but so few of them achieve. They all share the ecstasy of playing the game, but unfortunately, when it ends, they share the devastating after effects.
The football player steps into the arena for the last time. Never again will he experience this ultimate high. He's lived a fraction of his life, and he has already peaked.
I can't think of any other earthly experience that comes close to approaching the magnitude of the experience of being a pro athlete. And also, I can't think of many things that approach the level that you drop emotionally when you can't do that anymore.
It scares the hell out of me.
scared, I think, a little bit. Scared not so much in what I'm going to do, but scared in how I'm going to deal with not being around this.
The NFL Players Association produced a definitive study of the 6-month transition period from the field to the real world. That was more than 3 years ago, but the problems haven't changed. The findings, which affect some 400 players a year, half of the pre-1970s players surveyed said they experienced emotional problems. The figure grew considerably after 1970, when football started to become a year-round business. Regarding personal problems, the figure jumped from 1/3 to 1/2.
It can almost be equated to something like death, because what happens to them is in one day, their lives are completely turned around from anything they've ever known.
The shock begins immediately. No more big paychecks. No more insulated world. No more hero worship. Depths of depression replace the self-esteem that once was wrapped in the uniform.
We've been babied our whole careers, high school, college, and professional. I think once that stops, there's no more, womb to go back to.
And once you're not a football player anymore, you're not special anymore to a lot of people.
I didn't have football anymore. I didn't have the peers. I didn't have my buddies, my friends, the jokes in the locker room, the fun. That void there was a big, huge void there.
Even though I've set myself up and I'm looking forward to the afterlife, to when football is over. But it's not something that I'm really looking forward to.
Following his walk on the moon, astronaut Buzz Aldrin grappled with his return to Earth, literally and figuratively. Former Browns wide receiver Danny Peebles knows that feeling. He suffered a career-ending neck injury in 1991. But oddly enough, that wasn't his worst moment.
The saddest day, looking back, was the last game of the year at Cleveland. They introduced me. That's when it hit me. That's the last time that'll ever happen to me again. And it's something that I've become so accustomed, to people cheering.
Like Peebles, 2/3 of the players who leave the NFL suffer from permanent injury. This kind of physical disability increases the likelihood of emotional and personal instability. It has been blamed for this startling NFLPA statistic. 1/6 of the players were divorced within 6 months of the end of their careers. Many of these transitional problems, in a case of historical irony, have been echoed by Vietnam War veterans.
What the vets would report, the same as what the NFL players would report, is that one day they would be in the jungle, or they'd be in Saigon. The next day, the aircraft would have them dropped off back in Northern California. There's no transition period.
I lost a brother to the same thing. It was in Vietnam, 101st Airborne Ranger Division. Came back from Vietnam, and he couldn't make the transition. I wish I could have helped him with his drug and alcohol problem, but he committed suicide, and he was successful at it. But some of the things I knew about him and know about him now, I can relate to.
Rochester, who won a Super Bowl ring with Joe Namath, also struggled with alcohol and thoughts of suicide soon after his career ended. Other players tried suicide and succeeded. In 1972, he was a humble and naive 22-year-old, only 6 years removed from Poland, when he started kicking for the Green Bay Packers. He led the NFL in scoring in 2 of his first 3 seasons and was hailed as the Polish Messiah. But the pressures became too great, and he turned to alcohol and eventually cocaine as his career fell apart in 1980. 5 years later, Markol began injecting heroin. Eventually, even that failed to ease the pain.
I finally made a decision that I can't go on anymore. And so I attempted suicide. I was in intensive care for 12 days.
What happened?
I drank a lot of battery acid.
When Markol arrived at the hospital, he showed no vital signs and was given last rites. 7 years and a handful of surgeries later, no longer naive, he has become humble Chester Markol once again. In many ways, Mike Wise was a typical football player. He was a 6'7", 270-pound defensive end with a tattoo of the Grim Reaper on his calf. He entered the league in 1986 with his favorite team, the Los Angeles Raiders. 6 years later, when his battered body was no longer useful to the NFL. Cleveland released him this past training camp. Mike Wise was just 28.
I think Mike was scared. I think he knew what was coming. He just didn't want to admit it.
It becomes your life. It is your life. And so all of a sudden to have it end or have it taken away from you before you want it to be gone, brutal.
And he just wished that he would have organized his finances a lot better and put more money away, been more practical with his money.
And what can you say?
What could I say? I mean, it's like you made your bed, now you have to sleep in it.
This $600,000 house in Davis, California was Mike Wise's dream house, but it was also a fatal curse. After the Browns cut him on August 4th, he returned to California, but money problems forced him to put his house on the market. 2 weeks later, alone in the middle of the night, he lay in his bed and took his life.
Mike's an extreme. That's an extreme result. But to deny that the guys leave the game and don't feel that pain that Mike felt, that hurt, that sense of loss, that's ridiculous. I mean, they do.
It's a dreamland, and the dream lasts for 4 to 10 years, depending on how well your career goes. And then you wake up from your dream, and it's like the nightmare begins.
Most players don't visit the dark side with that intensity, but they do live with a degree of anxiety. With that in mind, the NFL does offer a 4-pronged program designed to prepare a player for life after football.
It's not going to make the transition without stress, but we feel that it will go a long way in reducing a great amount of stress, and then making the transition a lot easier.
We invite them, we remind them of what the benefits are, but it's hard to get them to focus on something other than football.
Beyond programs, individual recognition and confrontation are vital to a successful transition.
I used to make this joke about needing therapy when I walked away from the game. And the reality is that about 1.5 years ago, I went in and started talking to somebody. I accept the reality that it will end, but as far as saying, yeah, it's done, they're going to have to drag my big sorry butt off the field by my feet. I love playing the game, and it's not that I don't believe I can do anything else, but I don't want to. I want to do this. I want to play football.
Very few of the league's players make a smooth transition to their next careers, but even they struggle emotionally. Tom, Joe, what was it like for you?
Well, Greg, I'll share a very personal story about what the league can mean to you. On the day that I retired, I'm sure I looked very composed in front of the media and my teammates and former coaches, but the reality was that 35-minute drive from Morrison, Colorado down to the Bronco complex, I cried like a baby behind the wheel of my car. Had to clean myself up before the press conference for the retirement, but there's nothing that's ever going to match that thrill of running out in front of those 75,000 in Mile High Stadium.
Tommy, I know exactly what you mean. It took me 3 years, a good 3 years, to adjust to life after football. And I have to be honest with you, even as I sit here today, I'm still trying to adjust. Let me tell you a story about a guy, John Riggins. A couple years ago, John and I were inducted into the Ring of Honor at RFK Stadium, and we stood there at halftime. The Philadelphia Eagles and the Washington Redskins were playing. I was in my jacket and tie like any retired player would be, and John wasn't around. All of a sudden, out of the dugout, out of the locker room, came number 44 dressed in full uniform. And I haven't heard an ovation in that stadium like that in a lifetime. He ran out onto the field to hear the crowd scream and yell again. I leaned over to him. I said, "John, you're really something." He said, "Joe, I had to hear it one more time."
Well, I know for both of you gentlemen, where they're going to play this game today, the Rose Bowl, some pretty indelible memories for both of you as the Bills and the Cowboys get set to make their own memories in the Rose Bowl this year. 10 years ago, Super Bowl champion, number 7, Joe Theismann, the Skins, over Miami. And 6 years ago, Tommy Jackson's final game. Not quite done against the Giants.
Madison, you should have seen me at this meeting. I was cool, I was confident, I had everything they wanted before they could ask for it. Research, no problem. The analysis, the projections, never looked better. Madison, oh, you should have been there.
Cambridge Businesswear keeps you organized, together, and always looking your best in business.
You and me, kid, we're going places, huh?
Cambridge Businesswear, as important to the way you look as the clothes you wear.
Start saving $300 a month when you're 23, and you could retire a millionaire. Start at 30, and you might reach 600,000. At 40, about 200,000. Which is why you need Prudential's Financial Assessment Program. A personalized computer analysis of where you are, where you want to go, and how we can help. Because nobody plans to fail. They just fail to plan. Call Prudential Insurance now.
My brakes started squeaking. So I called the dealer. He said, bring it by Thursday. Next Thursday. So I asked him, what about now? I mean, I've got kids to drive to school.
At Midas, we don't want you driving around on worn brakes. That's why our experts can fix your brakes right the very same day you bring in your car.
I went to Midas that day, and I got my brakes fixed that day.
Midas, because your brakes can't wait.
It is well known that the AFC is 0 for the last 8 Super Bowls. Want a reason? In the second quarter of these 8 games, the NFC has outscored them 106-18, with the AFC scoring only 1 touchdown, 3 field goals, and a safety in 8 games. Super Bowl 27 is being played at the Rose Bowl, not the Louisiana Superdome. Otherwise, we'd already know the losing team's score. Denver, Philadelphia, New England, and Denver again all came up with just 10 points in Super Bowls 12, 15, 20, and 24. Speaking of the Rose Bowl, the 2 teams whose shadow the Bills are trying to escape, the 0-4 Vikings and the 0-4 Broncos, each lost the Super Bowl in Pasadena. Minnesota in Super Bowl 11 against the Raiders, Denver in Super Bowl 21 against the Giants. But a different view of destiny favors the Bills. The only other wild card team to win the Super Bowl, the 1980 Oakland Raiders, traveled exactly the same playoff path. They each won the wild card game at home against Houston. They then followed with a road win at the AFC Central champ, Cleveland and Pittsburgh. They then won the title game at the home of their divisional champ, San Diego and Miami. In the Super Bowl, the Raiders beat the NFC East champ, Philadelphia. Can the Bills beat the NFC East champ, Dallas, in 1992?
Inside the Numbers is brought to you by EA Sports Video Games. If it's in the game, it's in the game.
Give me the rock, give me the handles, give me the paint, give me the shoes. You have anything in a Gorilla Slam, sweet. Give me that, not that brick, that brick. Give me him, some of that, and one of those. Showtime. Take his move, not that move. Money. Give me my house. If it's in the game, it's in the game. Bulls versus Blazers and Bulls versus Lakers for Super NES and Sega Genesis. EA Sports. It's in the game.
Have you seen the pictures of my new house?
Get 2 words for you, pal. Dry rot.
Is it me, or is the porch kind of...
Hey, look, it's time for lunch. I think my house just ate my lunch.
Buy a house, start living in McDonald's.
If you're a little strapped for cash, get a whole lot of the food you love for lunch in a McDonald's Extra Value Meal.
What you want is what you get.
Ever done any tuck pointing, Randy?
At McDonald's today.
A test drive, 6 miles on smooth roads. If I was only driving 6 miles on smooth roads, I'd buy a bike. I'd get in shape. Let me test drive in rush hour traffic so I can see if it'll last like a Subaru. Let me test drive it to snowy Alaska so I can see if it has all-wheel drive like a Legacy. Don't take me around the block. Let's get it to 50 and slam the brakes so I can see if it offers anti-lock brakes like a Legacy. Test drives aren't real. What's real is the money I'm spending. Show me, tell me, I have the money. I want to know what to drive.
Key Biscayne, once ravaged by Hurricane Andrew, now restored to a golfer's paradise. The seniors take the course by storm in the Royal Caribbean Classic, beginning Friday afternoon live on ESPN.
You're looking live at the Rose Bowl, where the helicopters are hovering to help dry the field. Rain last night, beautiful sunshine today, but helicopters want to make sure that that field is as dry as possible at 3:18 here on the West Coast. All right, you knew we'd have to get to it sooner or later. It's time to talk the quarterbacks in this particular ball game. And for another shot for Jim Kelly in only his 4th season, though. A chance to step up to the pedestal for Troy Aikman, Joe, and that's a pretty quick rise to the pinnacle.
It is a quick rise, Chris, and just because Troy Aikman is the quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys, you have to wonder, does he really feel like one of those riders of the range?
If you stick me up against Jay Novacek, no, I'm the biggest city slicker you've ever seen in your life. I mean, I can't even ride a horse. And then if you compare me with someone else, then yes. Real Cowboys would be seriously offended to hear someone call me a cowboy.
Troy Aikman has been recognized as the golden boy of America's team ever since the Jones-Johnson regime selected him as their #1 draft pick in 1989. If not for one momentous decision, his career could have gone a different way.
What happens if you didn't transfer from Oklahoma to UCLA? Where would you be today? Do you think you'd be where you are?
Well, I really believe that I'd be in the league. Probably wouldn't have started a game yet, and I'd probably be bouncing around a little bit. But I always felt that I would get an opportunity, whether it be through free agency or just a late draft or what have you. But I think I would have made it here, but obviously things wouldn't have worked out quite like they have.
Aikman is enjoying the success of leading the Cowboys to their first Super Bowl in 14 years. But he knows that inside the Rose Bowl, it will be all business.
I don't want to lose this one. I know how you get labeled when you lose a Super Bowl, and I don't want any part of that.
A Super Bowl victory might bring Aikman a step closer to Roger Staubach in the eyes of Cowboy fans. But for Troy, it's only the beginning.
Through it all, when I get done playing, I want some people to say that, the next kid playing is comparing him with me or allowing me to be a part of the quarterback legacy. Hopefully it can build to that point.
Troy Aikman has already taken a step towards that legacy of his own. Obviously, a little bit later on this afternoon, he gets to make a longer stride in trying to create the legacy of Troy Aikman.
The #1 pick in '89, what a quick shot he has at getting to the top of the heap. Opportunity, that's the operative word here, Joe, because with 3 straight trips to the Super Bowl, Jim Kelly knows he has a very rare shot. Any top-flight quarterback knows that you must seize the moment. And Jim knows that he hasn't quite done it yet. Now in his 9th professional season, he'll be 33 years old in just 2 weeks. It almost looked as if time and opportunity were passing him by. Super Bowl 25. Jim Kelly stood helpless on the sidelines as the New York Giants mounted a long drive to end the first half, then a longer one to start the third quarter, turning a 12-3 Bills lead into a 17-12 deficit. Buffalo would score a point a minute, but 19 points in 19 minutes weren't enough. Giants 20, Bills 19. Super Bowl 26. A battered Kelly saw Washington maul the Bills, running up a 17-0 lead at the half. Then, Kelly's first pass of the third quarter, picked off by Kurt Govea. It was over. Skins 37, Bills 24. Out with a knee injury in the wild card game, Kelly watched the Bills' quest for another shot at the big one disintegrate as the Oilers raced to a 28-3 lead at the half.
I'm sitting on the sideline saying, please help us not be like the Buffalo Bills-LA Raiders game a few years back when we beat them 51-3. All of a sudden, after halftime, the interception for a touchdown, we're back and we're all saying, oh no. And all of a sudden, boom, 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 boom. We're back in the game. We pull it off. We win.
And you're looking at maybe playing at Pittsburgh and at Miami. Your 2 ports of call as a youngster and as a collegiate, and possibly you could play in neither game. I mean, what are you thinking about then, Jim?
Well, the Pittsburgh game, I always wanted to be a Steeler, and playing against them, I've been very successful, and it's one where you look at, and I've never played at Three River Stadium, and I knew that if I took a chance and went out there and hurt my knee even worse, maybe it put me out for a long time. So
you said that your win over Miami was your biggest. I mean, there are a lot of things that happened that week. Polls saying that no, Jim shouldn't start. Is Jim Kelly running the Buffalo Bills? I mean, people were saying that. I mean, who's the inmates running the asylum? I mean, it had to annoy you.
It was to a certain point, but I understand and I realize that negative people always have to be heard. And the thing about it is you run a pool in Rochester, New York, and you see, there's only 1,200-1,400 people do that. And all of a sudden, the letters that I received at my home, 4,000 or 5,000 letters saying that, we realize that you're our starting quarterback. And I'm not taking anything away from Frank. I think, I've said it before, that he'd be starting for 3/4 of the NFL teams. I'm blessed to have a guy like that behind me. The Buffalo Bills are blessed to have a guy like that behind me.
All right, I'm going to play word association here, and you can answer short, but I'm going to bring up some names. Joe Montana.
The greatest.
Terry Bradshaw.
My childhood idol.
Bob Greasy.
One class, smart individual.
John Elway.
The big play man.
Roger Staubach.
One of the greatest also.
Fran Tarkenton.
The scrambler.
Jim Kelly.
The toughest.
The names that I said, I believe, are the only 7 to have started in 3 Super Bowls. That's a kind of unique position that you're in. You want to play 4 more years, but, you realize in those 4 years you may not have another shot.
And I might have 4 more. I know, I realize that, and a few years back, they were saying, you're in a Super Bowl, do you think it's a must-win situation? I always think it's a must-win to a certain point, but now that we've made it 3 consecutive Super Bowl appearances, it's one where you say the odds are against you that you're going to keep coming back. And I look at it and I say, this is one for Jim Kelly. It's a must-win for me because I want to make sure that I get that ring and bring a trophy back to Buffalo.
Why will this Super Bowl be different from the other 2?
We're going to win. Is that good enough?
Well, it'll be good enough for Jimbo, that's for sure, if this finally is a charm. They are the only 7 to have started 3 Super Bowls, those quarterbacks that we mentioned. But unlike Elway, who, of course, has other things to hang his hat on, the drive and that kind of stuff, and Fran Tarkenton, who's thrown for more yards than anybody in football in the Hall of Fame, Jim Kelly doesn't have that legacy yet. He's got to win, Joe, to really be embraced in that group that we mentioned.
Well, he really does, Chris. The unique thing about the quarterback position is this is your game, because when you talk about Joe Montana, you talk about his 4 Super Bowl wins. Terry Bradshaw, his 4 Super Bowl wins. John Elway, his 3 losses. Fran Tarkenton, his 4 losses. The quarterback automatically becomes almost as big as the teams, if not bigger than the teams that they represent.
Yeah, but for either of these quarterbacks to be successful, it's going to be the supporting cast that's going to make it work. And I think you're talking about the Newtons and the Wolfords and the Tuanes against Bruce Smith, Charles Haley and company. This is a game that's going to be won up front.
No, it's going to be interesting, too, to see if the Bills move Bruce Smith along the line like they did against the Dolphins a couple of weeks ago. The Eagles tried it against the Cowboys with Reggie White. It didn't work, so the Cowboys think Bruce Smith will stay pretty much lined up over Tuane, and they'll help out with fullback Gerald Johnston there.
Well, the Bills will take their chance with that matchup for sure, but something that we'll be eyeing as we get set to bring you Primetime / Sports Center after the game. We have plenty more to come on this edition, 90-minute edition of the Super Bowl Game Day. We check out our Skycam. Yeah, that's us out here on the island. They say no man is an island. There are 4 of us right out here at the Century Plaza Hotel. We'll be back.
He's history's most celebrated quarterback. Now he's coaching Budweiser in Bud Bowl 5. Yes, some men are born to be football legends.
Give every last drop. We're going to win it. We're Budweiser.
Of course, some men aren't.
We'll win it because we're Bud Light.
You ever wonder how they get the strings in these things?
Bud Bowl 5. It's back. Get your ticket where you buy Bud, Bud Light, and Bud Dry. Someone will win $1 million in cash.
If Basic Instinct made you hot.
You sleep in the nude? Only when I'm naked.
Silence of the Lambs made you scream.
Look who's Mr. Scaredy Pants now.
And the Weapons series made you cheer.
Oh, just kidding.
We honestly don't care. These matches say you're lying. National Lampoon's Loaded Weapon 1.
I'm driving. Okay.
Rated PG-13. Starts Friday at a theater near you.
It's incredible. It's just
acres of roses, literally miles and miles of flowers and roses. His father started the business. It's been in the family for years. So it was very important that he provide for his employees. The pension plan is a great way to do that. We outline specific goals and start to implement an investment program. I call Chip up when it's my anniversary, and my wife gets beautiful roses every year. My wife is asking me to look for jewelers now.
Is your money getting this kind of attention? Call Shearson Lehman Brothers.
The solid granite gray of Wall Street. The boundless blue of a Paris morning. The radiant reds of an Australian sunrise. In celebration of a new style of service at home and abroad, we now embrace the colors of the world as the new colors of United Airlines. Come fly the airline that's uniting the world. Come fly the friendly skies.
Almost 10:20 out here on the West Coast. A beautiful day. Downtown L.A., out toward the ocean. It's been super, babe. The weather has just been perf all week long out here in California, except for the rain last night. Let's get down to some nitty-gritty, all right? So we're stoked for the game, obviously. Dallas's defense, guys, is the #1 defense in football. You can't take anything away from them, and why should we? Their speed is so good, but yet it's not a dominant defense like you would imagine the old doomsday defense or purple people eaters, that sort of defense. So, are they this good? Philadelphia and San Francisco didn't think they were this good, and they found out otherwise because they could not get their offensive linemen into the linebackers, into the secondary to do any blocking because of the schemes of the Cowboys. The Bills have to find a way to offset Dallas's speed, Tommy.
Yeah, Chris, I think you hit the keynote word. They've got the fresh legs and the ability to move to the ball. The Buffalo Bills have to figure out a way to slow down Cowboy pursuit. We take a look here at the championship game. Ricky Waters trying to get wide. Now, as we freeze this shot, as they get to the sideline, look at the number of Cowboys in the shot. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 right there at the initial point of attack. But as Ricky Waters tries to cut back, you see a second line of pursuit with another 4 guys. That's 9 out of your 11 around the football. Somehow you have to keep some of those guys on the backside thinking, what if the ball comes my way? The other thing the Cowboys have to do is play the screen. Andre Reed here goes in motion. You see it's man coverage, the DB chasing him across the formation. Proper way to play the screen. Brian Cox gets caught inside. You'd prefer to have him outside, coming up, forcing things back to his teammates. He doesn't. Now the second line of pursuit, instead of attacking the play, has to chase Thurman Thomas to the sideline, and that's a easy race for Thurman to win to the end zone, Joe.
You know, it's interesting, Tommy. You and I are both sitting here talking about, I think, the most important side of the ball. That's defense. For example, when I try and focus on what Buffalo has to do, I look at the nose tackle, Jeff Wright. Here is the guy that is the center cog. If you're going to stop any kind of running, you have to focus on the nose tackle. Number 91 in last year's Super Bowl. Now, he has to get penetration or at least a stalemate. He cannot afford to have this happen. McKenzie drives him back. Lachey drives him back. 7 yards down the field, Jeff Wright makes the tackle. That can't happen. Also, the Dallas Cowboys, if they do want to commit the blitz, which I don't think they're going to do, they have to be prepared to try and do a better job of covering one-on-one in the secondary. You see, they don't even block one of the linebackers. Young gets it off to Rice. They wind up with the big 6. I think it's a big gamble if they try and blitz Jim Kelly and the Buffalo Bills.
Well, guys, remember, it's offense, defense, special teams. And it's no coincidence that we have 2 great special teams coached by Bruce DeHaven of Buffalo and Joe Alvazano of the Dallas Cowboys. The Bills, of course, have Steve Tasker shown here. He gets a piece of the ball on this Miami punt here and helped the Bills win that game. Tasker is a Pro Bowl performer, basically become a perennial pick because of these type of plays. On the flip side, the Cowboys have Kelvin Martin, a return man. He's dangerous. He gets them good field position. Here's a return against the Eagles. And the thing about Martin is he has a little bit of trouble on punt returns, so they'll help out by bringing 2 guys up. The main thing is I really think the special teams, there's going to be a big play today that tips this game in balance, and that I think the Cowboys have more speed, better youth, and that's what I'm looking at.
Well, the Bills have a hot kicker in Steve Christie. Lynn Elliott did a good job this year, a rookie, and you say, but boy, a rookie kicker in the Super Bowl? They're 3 for 3 if you want to look it up. Matt Barr, Super Bowl 14. Kevin Butler, Super Bowl 20. And, oh, yes, Jim O'Brien, Super Bowl 5. Rookie kickers 3 for 3. We'll be back with more on this edition of Super Bowl Game Day in just a moment.
Hello, my name is Peter Adams and Reverend Taylor Jones Jr. Grace Manor Nursing Home Foundation, Inc. is in the final push to purchase the Rosa Copeland Nursing Home. We are presenting Reverend Dr. E.V. Hill from Los Angeles, California, and special guest Elvin Slaughter in a special religious service at the Buffalo Convention Center. February the 2nd, 1993, 6 p.m. through 10 p.m. The public is invited. Call 85-GRACE for more information. Thank you.
Up a steep grade, under slippery conditions, the Oldsmobile Bravada can beat the Ford Explorer. Even with one boat tied behind its back. Oldsmobile, the power of intelligent engineering.
Bravada, feature for feature, one of the best sport utility values on the market. Especially this feature, only $369 a month. Bravada from Oldsmobile, now at your participating Oldsmobilers dealer.
Super Tuesday. This week on Super Tuesday, see if the Fab Five continue to live up to the hype. Michigan takes on their Big Ten and in-state rivals, Michigan State. Super Tuesday. Then it's an SEC clash between surprising Arkansas and LSU. Super Tuesday. ESPN Super Tuesday.
Back at Super Bowl game day, well, you've seen the shots of the helicopter trying to dry off the field up at the Rose Bowl. Let's check back with Dan Patrick, to the man that knows every inch of sod in the National Football League, the nitty-gritty dirt man, George Toma. Guys?
Thank you, Chris. The sod squad has been out in full force for the last 3 hours. The sod god joins us now, George Toma. Rained yesterday. You had the tarp on. How's the field?
The field is dry right now. We have a helicopter blowing some of the wet paint, and we're ready to go.
As far as it being a fast track or a slow track, is the grass a little bit high, or how will this affect the game maybe in the second half?
Actually, for the grass is being cut at 7/8, so it's almost like artificial turf, since both of the teams play on artificial turf. Being at 7/8 of an inch, so it's be like artificial. The first half I look for a fast track. The second half I look for a slow track, because around 4 o'clock the dew starts coming up on the field, and we put some Turfzorb down there to try to keep the dew off the blades of the grass.
All right, George Toma, thanks. I know you got to go back to work. Get that helicopter out of here, too. I'm tired of seeing that. Chris, now back to you.
All right, Dan. Well, now we know it's 7/8, not 8/9 of an inch that they're cutting it at, so we'll see how that plays. We've, hey, we got predictions to make, don't we? Yeah, we still have some stuff around the bend as Super Bowl game day keeps churning on, even when the dew hits the field.
We'll take the flip, the kick, the headbutt, and the taunt. Brr, throw in that and that. Looks good. Give me the field, too. Grab the stadiums, grab that, grab that. Do you have anything in a clothesline tackle? Good. Give me that. Give me the wave. No, no, yes. We'll take that, the dive. Party time. Let's do that and that. Not that, and that. Give me that again. Timeout. If it's in the game, it's in the game. John Madden Football 93 for Super NES and Sega Genesis.
Where'd that truck come from?
EA Sports. It's in the game.
I'm feeling empty. I'm feeling blue. I know it's over, and I know it's through.
Man, now that's the blues.
Next time you want a Diet Pepsi, Ray, all you gotta do is ask.
Now that's the right one, baby.
A basketball fan's ultimate trip. Jets, limos, luxury hotels, and 5 tickets to the championship in New Orleans. Watch for the Fab 5 Fantasy Basketball Weekend Sweepstakes beginning next Monday only on ESPN.
This Super Bowl edition of NFL Game Day has been brought to you by EA Sports Video Games. If it's in the game, it's in the game.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have reached the moment of truth. What's it going to be, Dallas or Buffalo? Tom?
Well, with all due respect to the NFC, the AFC has a proud tradition, and I think it's time people were reminded of that. Buffalo 31, the Cowboys 28.
The Buffalo Bills, I think, will win 24-21 because the NFC has won 10 of the last 11. I was the only one to lose to the AFC. I don't like being alone.
You're both wrong. I tell you what, the Dallas Cowboys are going to win this game because it's the NFC East muscle. They're going to win this game 30-27. Buffalo score late just to make it close.
Mort. If I'm the Buffalo Bills, misdirections, reverses, something to take advantage of over pursuit of the young Dallas team, make them feel, oh my goodness, we're in the Super Bowl. Thermal to throw a pass, throw the kitchen sink. Buffalo 30, Dallas 27.
Really?
What a
Such
surprise.
a surprise.
I know that. Hey, we'll see you after the game at 11 Eastern, 8 on the West Coast for Primetime / Sports Center. For Joe and Tom and Mort and Dan and Andrew and Greg, I'm Chris Berman. Thanks for watching. Enjoy the game.